All right. I think I'm live. I think. Let's see. Testing, testing. Okay, can you hear me? Everybody in chat. Hey, what's happening? Just want to make sure I can be heard. I'm still dealing with the trauma from getting on here and not being heard that time, and for like over an hour and something. That's still drilled into my memory. So just want to make sure everybody can hear me. Can you actually hear me? Okay. What's happening? Hello, everybody in chat. If you can hear me, hopefully. Sorry, I'm catching up here where everybody's at. Okay, you can hear me. Thank you, Cosmic Joe, Rebecca, everybody that's in chat. Sorry I didn't see everybody, but thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. This is a different one because it's. This one won't be a 3 hour one like the last one. I promise it's not going to go down that route. But I did have a couple of things that I wanted to kind of just go over, and this will be a situation where you're kind of will take the ride with me, all right? Because I'll tell you why I have any type of interest in guys. I guess I can't use really that term because I get myself in trouble. So this is all in for entertainment only. For the serial blank, I'll just go serial unalivers. I'll just say SK. Okay, I think that makes that a little bit easier. Maybe stop me from getting in trouble because I have gotten in trouble on this thing before, so I got to be careful. Anyway, something I want to talk about this, and first of all, I want to appreciate everybody coming. Like I said, this will be one that I'll go over the kind of just you'll take the story with me, and I'll tell you why I have an interest in this. And I think it's kind of you might find it rather interesting, and there are things you can look up along the way, and a few points that I have I'll get to. I'll try to blaze through this stuff, and then we'll do a little bit of talk. Everybody in chat, I know you all talk amongst yourselves. You're real sharp, so I appreciate you all coming, and I will try to kind of go back through some things, maybe some either questions or things we can kind of elaborate on a little bit more. You know how we do it, same format that I've done each time. But this time I'm going to endeavor to get this information out quicker. Okay. Um, Again, thank everybody for coming. Cosmic Joe, Tamara, thank you for coming. Good to see you. Sharon, Joyce, Manisha, thank you. Appreciate you all coming. Okay, so check this out. This starts for me when I was very young. Okay, so I want to give some props to my mentor, and he was also my friend. It's this gentleman by the name of Dr. William Eckert. Okay, and we have, points in our life where things can go one way or another, and the people that we meet are key, and you can kind of who you meet when you meet them can influence who you are. He's one of those people in my life. He's a really, really cool cat. All right. Dr. William Eckert was the city pathologist, the head pathologist for my city for a number of years. And how I came to know him is that my sister is 16 years older than me. Okay. She's the second oldest of my clan. I'm the youngest, but she's 16 years older than me. And Dr. Eckert's daughter and my sister were really good friends. And as I got, older, probably, around the age of 11 or something like that, as a kid, he would walk by and he would just stop and talk to me. Or I'd see him when I was playing basketball, at the park or something, just shooting by myself. He'd stop and talk to me. And he started approaching me and he started saying the first things he said, your sister tells me that you like science. I said, actually, I do. We got, just chatting about that. And he invited me over. And he said, there's a trampoline back there too. My kids are all grown and gone. So I asked my parents, of course, and they knew them. So they're all right with it. And when I went over there, first thing is they had a number of birds, okay? And I already had a bird at that time, a cockatiel. I had a cockatiel that lived to be 26 years old named Leo, all right? And anyway, they had a number of birds, including a big parakeet named Lurch, that sat on that perch and he bit through some of his perch. He was like, say you rang or something like that. You couldn't get too close to him. So things like that were really cool. But the most important thing is that Dr. Eckert, in like the side part of their house, those rooms, he had like one, he had like a terrariums and also aquariums, but he had microscopes and things like that, and just a lot of scientific stuff. And we used to go back there and we go through the slides and stuff, and he would show me things, different microorganisms. And I had at that time, microscope, okay, you know, a microscope kit, like some of us get when we're young, but it goes to like what, 300-400x. You know, he had ones that were in the thousands of x, and also the one that would project onto the wall and stuff like that. And at the same time, he had like things like in those terrariums, salamanders and newts. And he would describe to me, you know, he's telling me about how the newts have a certain neurotoxin that they emit sometimes below their bellies that can kind of irritate people's skin. So you don't want to always pick up newts. I mean, it won't kill you or nothing, but it's just the irritation it can cause. And little things like that. And he was just very genius. And I mean, we really got along. And, you know, it makes you wonder now why he would even bother to talk to just a kid of that age, especially at that level. But it was wonderful. You know what I mean? Because I was on that level. Tell you something else that makes him really cool. Okay. Dr. Eckert, he was friends with the producer and the director of that time of General Hospital. So he would he told me he talked with this like this New Jersey, this Eastern accent, real strong. He said, Barry, he said, you know, I've been an extra on there. I'm sitting to Kelly's, the diner. And he goes, I've been an extra sitting in there sometimes. He goes, that food is good. He goes, it's catered. It's good, Barry. He said, always pay attention to the actors that are really eating that food and chewing it. And it was just interesting to hear him say that. And I say it's so much so that I know it's true because, okay, look, I'll just spill the beans, all right, and just throw myself on Front Street. I've been a General Hospital fan since 1978, 79. My sister and my mother were watching it all the time. And you got Luke and Laura running around Los Angeles looking for a piece of crystal. And I got hooked on it then, so I've just always watched it. All right, so I guess I lose my popularity and lose my listeners probably right there. Anyway, the point is, in 1991, the guy that played Luke Spencer, Anthony Geary, he'd been gone from that show for years. He came back, but he came back as a different character named Bill Eckert and the Eckert family, but Bill Eckert. And that was named after Dr. Eckert and his friends that were part of that show. So anyway, point being, he was very, very cool. And I learned a bunch of stuff from him, especially not just, you know, microscopes and I mean, different types of scientific things. I remember looking at me and saying, you know, I can see you teaching, Barry, I can see you teaching science one day. I was like, I don't think so. But he had a big influence on me. Now going forward, sorry, I got too excited on that, but I'm going to stick to my script here. Okay. One thing that's really important about this, we had a relationship that I just go over there and hang out with him and talk to his wife for, you know, I mean, that went on for years. And about when I got a little bit older in 1988, okay, I go over there and he's like looking at me. He goes, man, and this would really, you know, the thing that said fun that's always said on YouTube now is, oh, this is done for entertainment purposes only. Yeah, this is done for educational entertainment, you know, educational purposes, what he said to me that time. He said, really, this is a little bit gruesome, but I think because under educational purposes, it's all right for you to see it. And what he was doing, he was saying, he's telling me he's going to be flown out in about less than a week to England to be on a panel that had to do with about 4 or 5 forensics people that they're going to have on to do this show to determine who Jack the Ripper was. And he said it was his idea to get this whole thing together, and they wanted to get them all together for this panel, and that they turned it into this show. And the show, some of y'all might remember it. The name of the show was, and I've already put a link to it in the chat. All right, and it was The Secret Identity of Jack the Ripper in 1988. And let me see here. Okay, I think I'm doing better with these pictures, folks. So I'm going to try to show you a picture of my friend and my mentor, Dr. Eckert. Here, if I can get this just right, I think I should be much better with it this time. Almost there. Boom. Oh, sorry, hold on. I've almost got it. Sorry. Here you go. Okay, there he is. There he is. That's my friend, Dr. William Eckert. All right. And like I said, it's just it was very cool. I learned a lot from him. He was a very genius. All right. Anyway, point being, he shows me this file. He's got this big file of Jack the Ripper, right? And it's got pictures in there, some that's beyond just that last victim that he had more time with. There were other pictures of those women in there that were a bit graphic. You know what I mean? That I don't see many circulating. Even a few of them on the net I didn't see now, currently. Anyway, there were 5 individuals that they thought might possibly be Jack the Ripper based on all this information. All right. And the suspects were a gentleman named M.J. Druitt, another Sir William Gull, another one, the third, Aaron Kosminski. Okay. Another Dr. Francis, oh boy, Tumberlity or something like that. Okay. And all these can be looked up or you can just watch the video. Okay. The next one, Prince Albert Victor. And the 5th, Walter Sickert. All right. And so he was going over just the information and everything and who he really thought it was straight up. And Dr. Eckert had told me that, something you don't forget anything, He said that he thought it was Aaron Kosminski based on what he knew concerning serial killers. All right. Now this is where things will get even more interesting. All right. A reason why Dr. Eckert had an interest in serial killers is because in my city, there was one of the more notorious, famous serial killers of all time. And he just wanted to be very well known by the name of BTK, Bind, Torture, Kill. Okay, and that gentleman's real name is Dennis Rader. Okay, and Rader. Let me see. Make sure I get this exactly correct here. He killed, I believe it's 10 people he killed. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it was in 1994 to 1997. He killed 10 people. Okay, and he was apprehended in 2005, I think it was. Anyway, here I'll show a picture of him actually, just so everybody can see that. And it was a pretty big deal around here. And what he would do is, what he would do is he would go into people's houses, and he would wait for him, and then he'd hold them at gunpoint, and then he'd normally assassinate the male, and then rape the woman. Sometimes after they were already murdered. All right. Sorry. Let me get this up to you. I thought I could maybe do all this at once, so I wasn't able to do that, but it'll still be more beneficial. Okay. There he is right there. Dennis Rader is his name. He was apprehended, I think it was in 2005. Anyway, it was a big deal because, what he did was he killed these families of people, and then he would send letters to the news and saying that he was trolling and doing other stuff and targeting people and all this torturous, and it caused a big panic. And then he just disappeared. Okay, he disappeared until like 2004 or 5, he started writing letters again to the newspaper. And when he did, it caused a big panic in our city. You know what I mean? So it's one of those deals. He was one of those type of murderers. And Dr. Eckert had talked about how things he had noticed about the body of the BTK victims and comparing and doing research on that with other serial killer pathologists and what they had found and things of that nature. And, he was a fascinating cat. Dr. Eckert was real cool. He told me, I remember telling him, saying, Barry, I'll tell you something. He said, I think that BTK is a white male. He said, most all of the serial killers have been white males. He goes, it's not a racial thing. It's just a statistic. He said, with the exception of William, hold on, make sure I get this name right. I took some notes to make sure I didn't get all these names wrong and things. The Atlanta child murderer, and his real name was Wayne Williams, and he was convicted. God, I'm not exactly sure. That's something else we'll get into in a minute. But anyway, he had said that. He said, with the exception of him, normally these serial killers have been Caucasian males of a certain age. And he just went into that, but that it gave him this interest in Jack the Ripper. And like I had mentioned, and on that show, on that video that I found it, and on there you'll see at the very end of that panel, they ask who he thinks the Ripper was, and he says, I believe it was Aaron Kosminski, based on the fact that he had mentioned to me in person. He said, we have pictures of all these people we think might have been the Ripper, except for this Aaron Kosminski. And he had spent some time in a mental health facility a couple of times. He was a barber too. And they say he didn't have a clear picture of him, but he was really who he thought that was. And let's see. All right, going forward. So that's that's another thing. All right. So now I'm gonna take you a little bit further down the rabbit hole. Okay. So it's gonna be another picture. I'll just show it too. Okay. Might as well get these out of the way because I think it illustrates what I'm saying. Okay, so going forward, a couple of years later, all right, I had a friend who was somebody I went to high school with. They were a couple of years older than me, and her name was Kelly Fager. Okay, and she stayed about 3 blocks away, probably 4, yeah, about 3 blocks away, very close to the junior high school, directly across the street from the junior high school that I went to. All right. Oh. And what happened was, okay, on December 31st, 1987, her mother had went to see her parents or grandparents in another city in the state. And when she came back, she found her husband was laying against the door shot, and Kelly and her sister were bound and floating like in the hot tub in the back. Okay, dead. And it caused this big deal. There was a dude that was working on their back part of their house named William Butterworth, and he disappeared, and their van disappeared. And then he was found in the trunk of some other car or something in Atlanta or something like that. And it was this big deal. He said that he saw their bodies and then doesn't remember what happened. He got assaulted by someone. So there was evidence of possibly somebody else being there as well, besides just Butterworth. And Butterworth was actually acquitted. Okay. So that was another shakeup. Okay. So that's somebody I knew. And it had the things the way she was bind. That was BTK's sign, bind, torture, kill. And she seemed to be, bind, torture, unalive, I guess I should say, excuse me. But when dealing with that's kind of his marker. And I can say now that he's actually been seen And it's kind of a trip because when I got out of my accident, I'm a medium. When I got out of my accident, I was walking in past where that house is almost. And I kept seeing her getting off the bus, waving like she did all the time to me when I'd be walking back from junior high, because she'd get dropped off from the high school. She's a couple years older, but I knew her, and she worked at the McDonald's that's just down the street. So everything was, because that van was like found at McDonald's, after they were murdered or something. Anyway, this just had the signs of BTK, but now that he's been apprehended, and it was such a big deal when that cat got caught, okay, because how he got caught is when he resurfaced, he started sending letters to the police, and he sent one on a disc that they traced back to his church. He was like a deacon at his church. He was taking bodies in there and trying to do things, after they were dead and everything. So, but to date, there's been nothing that really ties her and her death to BTK at this time. But it's still very odd, because after this, and I kept seeing her waving and stuff, not long after that, BTK's daughter, who's a few years younger than me, but my cousin-in-law went to high school with her, and she wrote a book. And it just came out right about the same time this was happening. So anyway, that's another reason. So that gave me an interest in serial killers at that point. All right, because that hit way close to home in my city. That's how Dr. Eckert was involved and why he had interest in it also. All right, and it's such a trip. So I remember I was down at this place called the Crystal Dock, and a wonderful lady who long since passed away a few years ago named Zandra that used to run. And I was just going there to talk to her as I was getting stuff. And I remember I said, my mentor, Dr. William Eckert, and she looked at me, she said, "What?" She kept looking, she goes, "Barry, you're too really young to know Dr. Eckert." I said, "I did." She said, "I worked in his office for years when he was a pathologist." So he was just great. We talked for a long time. I told her, I said, we actually started talking about the Ripper thing. And she goes, "God, you did know her. You did know him." I said, "Yeah, definitely." But point being, that takes us, okay, sorry, okay, I'm getting excited. Everything I said I wasn't going to do. Okay, when it comes to why I'm bringing this up too, okay, Dr. Eckert, and he wrote a book too, and I'll show that. The reason why I am bringing this up, okay, is that he in recent times, and this is one of the books. I think he wrote another book also. There you go. Anyway, sorry. The reason why I'm bringing this up now is because recently, and probably like the last 5 years or so, there's been some DNA work that was done on a shawl from one of the Ripper's victims named Catherine Eddowes. And I think she may have been the last one. The last one was pretty gruesome. If you've ever seen those pictures on that, you can look that up online. Anyway, there was blood on her shawl, and there's a question of how that got obtained. First, to some reason, it gets questioned. All right, but they actually did the DNA, and the mitochondrial DNA they traced back to a maternal sister of Aaron Kaminsky. And right now there's been debated saying, oh, there was something wrong with this and that in the sequence of the deal. And it's been contested a lot and saying, oh, it's by no means valid enough to close the case. But I'm going to tell you this, my friends, where there's smoke, as my mama always used to say, where there's smoke, there's fire. All right. So Dr. Eckert had said that, and now they're bringing that up. And the fact that's even getting us that close scientifically, when he was saying that back in 1987, 88, I think he needs to be commended. That was my friend, my buddy. I mean, and like I said, I have no reason why Mary said talk to me like that, but very influential in my life and very informative. You know what I mean? We all need people at some point that it kind of changes the way we look at some things. Because, you know, at that point there, I wasn't really telling people, hey, yeah, I like science a lot. You know what I mean? I'm into it. I was kind of trying to hide that from people, and it wasn't, you know, what I wanted people to know. But somehow he seemed to know it. And the fact that he spent the time talking to me about that gave me an interest in the thing with Kelly, somebody that I had known. And I'll tell you, Kelly was just as nice as could be. Okay, she really was. Her whole family was nice. And it was horrible when that happened. It really rattled people, especially the fact it was in my neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Hold on. Anyway, back to that. So I just wanted to, so that just brings me, this is part of the ride you're going on with me. That's the story of how I got into um, uh, serial killers. All right. Serial unalivers. But at the same time, so at the same time, during that era, when he's showing me this stuff over Jack the Ripper, I took a particular interest in it because, and this is something that some of you might remember, some of you might not. All right. And it's a movie that was called Time After Time with Mary Steenburgen, Malcolm McDowell, and John Warner actually played Jack the Ripper. And this show was from 1989. Here, I got a thing of that. Don't worry, I'm almost done with the pictures, everybody. So I know it's slowing me up a little, but hopefully it's more enjoyable. Okay, this movie right here. I love this movie. I thought it was just great. And it goes, in my opinion, they talk about cult classics. This one goes very much unacknowledged. And I'll tell you without spoiling too much of it, all right, if you haven't seen it, is that Malcolm McDowell, who I think is a great Shakespearean type of actor, he's playing H.G. Wells. And he's dealing with his time machine, but he's hanging out and it gets hijacked basically by one of his buddies that he's playing bridge with, who turns out to be Jack the Ripper. Okay, and it's John Warner, but and then he follows him back because the machine is programmed to come back. Okay, without this key, and he winds up following him, and it's this whole thing that goes down in modern, like 1980 San Francisco. I thought this movie was great. Now, my brother Reggie, who is very critical of everything, he said, that movie was sorry. I said, well, why was it sorry, man? He said, well, because it was just H.G. Wells running around San Francisco out of breath. I said, no, it was a lot. He did do a lot of running, but it was necessary. Point is, I would say, everybody, please check this movie out. But that came out when I was a kid. Like, for example, I was a little kid, but I mean, when for example, Corey Feldman, the one that's still alive, he's in that movie. He watches the dude come into the museum in the time machine. And he's sitting there talking to his mom. He's young. He's a year or two older than me. Yes, it's real interesting. Just it's that type of a movie. But the plot is really, really good. It does deal with time travel in a pretty cool way. The special effects for that time is all right, but it's a good plot. But it's what got me kind of into Jack the Ripper. So when Dr. Eckert was showing me this file, just because of this movie, come on, still kid, folks, y'all, come on. So just the fact that I like this movie so much, I was automatically really into what he was showing me. Okay, it is what it is. Anyway, sorry. Another thing that I want to kind of go into secondly, okay, is that something that he said was noticeable at that time, and that is the fact that there was no black quote unquote serial killers, and that went into some melanin things and some things that as a belief. And look, I have no, there's no doubt about it. Look, I'm very, very pro-black. All right, I'm a black man. I'm pro-black, pro-melanin dominant, but I'm also pro-God. So I'm pro-people. Okay, That's the way that goes, and that's the way we have to be as pro people to become a type 1 civilization. I've got friends of all types of races and cultures, and I'm proud to say that. All right, I've been criticized for that, but I think that's the way to do it. You know what I mean? It gets you get to know more about people and learn and expand. And that's what Gene Roddenberry was trying to show us in a type 1 civilization. That's one of the reasons I'm letting my head get beheaded like Duncan MacLeod was after me when I first came forward. Somebody has to, and there weren't many brothers coming forward then, but there are now. So it's changing. That's changing everything, you know, changing the way we see more different cultures and things at those conferences, different cultures and races at those conferences. Hey, y'all, I think that's really important. All right. And I mean that. Anyway, going back to this, but still, I was kind of proud of the fact that there was really no black serial killers outside of Wayne Williams, the Atlanta child murderer. Okay. And then I had one of those slaps in the face. Time to eat some crow. Because then I was found out after he was apprehended about Lonnie Franklin. Okay. Lonnie Franklin was also known as the Grim Sleeper in around Crenshaw in LA. And he was charged with, let me see how many that they got him. He was charged with 10 counts of murder, but they suspected he killed well over 100. And they found an album that he had of all these women, these missing women that he was taking these pictures of. And there's over 100, it's like 180 women. And if you watch some documentaries and things on him, you will see some other prostitutes will say, hey, they're not anymore, say, hey, I took a couple, I knew him, I took a couple of girls to him, you know, I never saw them again. And things of that nature. So the brother was working as a trash man from like, God, what was it? Sorry, I should have wrote that down. He was a trash man for a while, and they're thinking that he was probably dumping bodies into the waste and things like that. So, and the way he got caught was the saliva on the breast of some of the victims matched the saliva of his son when his son got busted for something. And they matched up the DNA, and it was so close that they knew it was a relative or something, an uncle or a father. And then he went to Lonnie went to this pizza parlor, and there were cops in there that actually confiscated his drink and his pizza and stuff when he got done, or took it from him. He thought it was them working, and that's how they connected his DNA to the bodies. Okay. And if you start really watching documentaries on him, people that know him say, we all generationally lived here. Our grandparents owned these houses. And they're all trying to tell people like that would come in there, so get out of here. But when they actually start talking, some of the things he was doing was very, very weird and perverse. And you start seeing these weird signs and things. But anyway, point being, he was a really, really, really a bad one. And, you know, there was a lady by the name of Margaret Prescott, and she started an organization called the Black Coalition Fighting Back Serial Murders. And you can look it up. They've got actually the website, I think, is blackcoalitionmurders.net, but it's called the Black Coalition Fighting Back Serial Murder. And there's another portion of them called Rose, which is Reclaiming Our Sisters Everywhere, South LA. And the reason why she did that is because he had been for 25 years killing what looks to be over 100 women hookers that just disappeared. And when they talked to the police, how nobody told anybody. Well, why worry about it? They're just hookers. And so that way the community wasn't informed of all that there was a serial murder out hunting people that were hookers, and they weren't even informed. Okay, so that brought up this whole reason her doing that. And, you know, that goes to something further, is that Lonnie's father said that, or Lonnie's son, who they was very close, said that he had support within the police department for cleaning up the streets and talked about that he got fan mail for his father, and his father got fan mail from people saying he was doing a great job cleaning things up. So, it just shows a little bit about where we're at as a world right now, as a society. Anyway, sorry. Uh, so my point is, notice the similarities between the Green Sleeper and also Jack the Ripper. There are some similarities there. Even the BTK ties into some of those. Speaking of General Hospital, going back to my mentor, Dr. Eckert, around 1992, they created this character named Dr. Ryan Chamberlain, and he was a serial murderer, and he terrorized Port Charles. I think they just killed him off finally a couple of years ago. But I mean, he was a great character, but he was a serial killer that met all these Ted Bundy and different profiles. And I think that it was because of maybe Dr. Eckert and his interest and knowledge that they might have made that character. Can't say that for sure, but I got that idea. Dr. Eckert passed away. He actually, around probably 90, 91, maybe 90, 91, he had a stroke. And then after that, him and his wife sold the house and moved away back to like New Jersey or something like that. And he passed in 99. I think she passed in 2006. So I want to just acknowledge his presence. Good man, definitely. Anyway, yeah, okay. The coalition, they were saying that there are 200 Black women missing that are prostitutes. 200. That's a lot. That is a lot. And how many that brother got, and something about serial killing, serial unalivers, is it's like if you start studying it. When I want to write my little thesis on this while I was in college, but it's like a disease. It's a type of disease. If you start reading and researching it, you have other researchers and scientists calling it, almost behavioral scientists calling it like a disease. And once they catch one of these individuals, it starts like 2 or 3 others to start doing their careers. You know what I mean? And it's things we don't never hear about. Because believe me, if you got this Lonnie Walker doing this, you got other people doing it, and we're not hearing nothing about it. And it's real serious in that way. And something else I want to throw in here before I go to, I got through it, before I go to everybody in the chat. Sorry, I've not been looking over here. By the way, somebody complained that when I do these lives, I don't look at the camera enough. It's weird because where the camera and I am, they're right there, and it looks like I'm talking to myself, and it's weird. It's like breaking the first law of acting or something. That when they have those actors say, "You never look at the camera," and it seems like that because it's like I'm talking to myself, and like, do I have the right expressions? I don't want to. So I'll look at it later when I'm doing the thing. Anyway, point being, last thing I wanted to address on this, when you start looking, like studying some of those serial killers, a lot of them, something that is a pattern that goes, a lot of them is the voices. They talk about hearing the voices and trapping people's souls and things of that nature. You hear it quite a bit when you hear all of them say it. Dahmer said it. Bundy, he said a little bit to what he admitted to after when he's trying to get himself off the hook. But that cat was a trip. I mean, he was escaping from prison and stuff. You got to give him one on ingenuity, man. That's terrifying, but whatever. Anyway, but each one of them that you check out, I don't know if Gacy said that too. I think he might have. The killer clown, the unaliving clown. Anyway, another reason to not like clowns. If you take that along with Gacy, along with that movie It, and the fact that the Greys often use clowns for screen memories. For what reason, I don't exactly know, but it gives, I talked to a number of contactees, and they all have a fear of clowns, and it's due to some type of an abduction or interaction with those Greys. And sometimes they'll be unaware of it until hypnosis, till they're in the session. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But point thing I want to mention is that the voices, that comes in again. and how these voices, and that ties into, I was checking out some Jerry Marzinski's work again and some of the stuff he's talking about now, and it stunned me. That cat's quite sharp, man. He was talking about the flyers. Now, the flyers, real quick, that's something that is termed in, I believe it's Carlos Castaneda's book, Tales of Power. I believe it's Tales of Power, or is it the Second Ring of Power? In either way, it's one of those. He describes something that actually happened to me. I had wound up knowing somebody older than me that was very advanced that set it up to where I saw one of these things too. And what happens is, in a black room, you can see, when there's no light at all, you can see one of these flyers. If you can see, that is, you see them in the darkness. And these are the ones, the flyers tend to hurl across like the room, or across the sky, across the air. And then they land, and there's like this thump or this pop, pop, boom. And when you're in pure darkness and you see that, man, that's somewhat terrifying. But those are the ones that Castaneda called the flyers. Okay, that's what Don Juan Mattis had called them, the flyers. And those are some type of negative inorganic beings that feed on our negative psychokinetic energy. Okay, and they're beyond, they're worse than the shadows I've talked to you before that I used to perceive when I was especially younger. I used to see these shadows, and even more and I try to get my frequency to where, hey, I don't want to see that. But the ones that were spherical and the ones that were more oval. And I would see the ones that were spherical, like plotting, like maybe a couple of them or something. But I saw one of the oval ones attack somebody. I've talked about that before. Attaching here above the crown chakra and elongating down to the sex chakra around the bottom of the base of the spine and going around. Okay, so, and it was feeding this person. The emotions were shifting right then. I told you they were bowling. I worked the bowling alley for years during college and through high school, just a couple of days a week. But we could bowl after hours. Her name was Trish, and she was a bartender, and they were all like bowlers. They would take advantage of that. As soon as they clocked off, we got a place cleaned up, they'd be out there bowling. There were 3 or 4 of them, but not me. You know what I mean? I didn't bowl really, didn't really care for it. But you'd be surprised. The B-Dub throws a Brooklyn. Don't doubt it. Anyway, seriously, the point being, she's just, pow, the pins are just, I mean, she got like a turkey, which, what is that, like 4 in a row, or can't remember now. But anyway, I was like, man, Trish, are you all right? And I seen this thing feeding on her. And she's like, oh, well, Barry, I think that the stinking thinking is just getting to me. The stinking thinking is just getting to me. But this thing was feeding on her negative, giving negative thoughts. Okay. And then that's how they start consuming your bioenergy and your light. That's what they're feeding on. Anyway, point being, these flyers. I heard Jerry Marzinski said that he thought that some of the flyers were the voices. And I don't see why not. I think it's brilliant. You know what I mean? Because, I mean, there's these different levels of these dark entities, and be careful when you get these places that are coming that have portals and things. That's where these things really come from, a lot of them. And you get around these active places where people trying to, quote unquote, I'm opening and closing portals and saying all that stuff and claiming they can do that. They're messing with vibrations they don't really understand, frequencies they don't really understand, and these things will bleed through. They'll come through, and then they can't get back, or they start harassing people, get attached to people. We can't perceive them because they're inorganic. But we're really, in a sense, outside of this shell, we're nothing but feelings. And that's what they take advantage of. They give the negative thoughts. So I think it's no coincidence that each one of those serial killers talks about hearing the voices. Just anyway, just something I want to throw out there. All right. I'm just going to go over this real quick and make sure I got everything. Okay. By the way, time after time, the guy that played Jack the Ripper, David Warner, for those of you that are fans, Star Trek fans, the Next Generation, there's still 5 lights. He's the cat that was torturing the Kardashian that was torturing Picard. Just thought I'd throw that out there. He makes a pretty good bad guy. You know, at one point, I don't want to spoil anything, spoil it too much, but there's a scene for those of you that have seen that I think it's really good. When he's not running after the cat, he catches up with them. They're sitting in the hotel and he turns on the TV. He's like, man, come sit down here, Herbert. Instead of calling him, HG, Herbert, come sit down, check this out. And he starts going that. And he's telling him, he said, man, we don't belong here. You don't belong here. We don't belong here. I'm going to take you back. And he starts looking at him. He's looking at him. He said, nah, man. He said, you don't belong here. And it was when they were back in England, back in the past. And by the way, something about that movie, they do such an excellent job of representing old England, I think, in those scenes. That's just superb. Somebody really put effort into that, kind of like they did for some of the Highlander historical things. But back then, they were sitting at the table, and he didn't know this cat didn't know he was a Ripper. They're good friends. They're all playing chess or whatever. And HG's telling him, "Oh, I'm trying to build the time machine because in the future it's going to be a utopia. Mankind's going to awaken, and there's going to be utopia in the future. It's going to be perfect almost. People won't be wanting for nothing." And everybody's kind of looking at him. They're saying, boy, that's really, optimistic. But when they're sitting there in the future, he turns on the TV. He said, look at this. And he starts going to channel. You're seeing tanks blowing people up, people getting blown up, war here on the news. This day he's clicking and he's going like that. And then finally HG's like, turn it off. He's like, man, you're the one that doesn't belong here, not me. He goes, where we come from, I was just an amateur. He said, here, I blend right in. He said, your utopia was not true. That's a fool's idea. I thought that was a powerful scene. Sorry, I don't want to ruin the movie for anybody that hasn't seen it, but it's good. Anyway, sorry. Okay, just make sure I got everything, folks. Any pictures I didn't show you? I think I showed you everything. Oh, here's one. And this will be just so you get a just. And I'll put in the chat again that movie with or the documentary with Dr. Eckert. I put it in there once already. Okay, this is Aaron Kosminski thing. And again, that's giving some props to Dr. Eckert because he had just, said that way back then. And now just the fact that the DNA the evidence is even taking them that way, I think it's kind of impressive. And for a lot of people, they won't even remember this was 1988. It wasn't recent. You know what I mean? Let me see if I can put that in the. There's the movie again with Dr. Eckert. I just put it in the chat there. Okay. And there's one other. And it's the last picture. Don't worry, folks. Don't boo me out yet. Okay. Boom. Getting a bit more efficient at it. Not perfect, but better. This is a movie that came out about the serial killer from my town. Bind, Torture, Kill. Dennis Rader. And his daughter had said that now he's like completely almost incapacitated in jail. He's just like, maybe he's got cancer or something. He's really sick or something, she said. What's interesting, I'll tell you about this guy. When for years I ran a juvenile offender residential. And in prior to the first one, I was a staff, and I worked the first shift with this gentleman that would come from Park City. He's a Park City like lieutenant detective or something, and he was a Spurlock. And he was pretty good. He busted those kids hard, man. The Spurlock be on him. But he was, really, he was that Park City, and that's where BTK actually lived. And he was like part of that, like the animal control or something like that, to work with the police or something like that. And he'd be up in there all the time. I told Spurlock, I said, man, so much for your detective abilities, man. I said, that cat's in there right under you. Hell, he kind of looks like you. And Spurlock used to always rub his hands and stuff. And he said, Littleton, I never liked him. That's all that makes you feel better, man. I never liked him, Littleton. And he said, but he goes, man, there's some of my coworkers, their wives are having nightmares about him because they met him so many different times, interacted with him, and they've had nightmares about him and stuff. And so that kind of thing goes out, because when they popped him and busted him, he just looked thrilled. He looked thrilled, And it's something else. And my brother does like fiber optics and type stuff. And he met a customer that was a law enforcement out of Valley Center. And the guy tells him, well, the weirdest thing ever happened to him was that they had a suspect that they were chasing, and the suspect ran up into Park City and then ran into the back of Dennis Rader's property and ran into his barn. And they all surround the barn and stuff for the suspect. Okay. Now, this has nothing to do with him. And he says, but then at one point, not long after he'd been out there, Dennis comes out and drops on his knees. And the cop told my brother, he said, we all knew him, so we didn't know what he was doing. And then the suspect winds up coming out, and they never went through. They never went in the barn and searched it or anything. They had no reason to. They weren't even there for that. So it's just one of those things that I just tell you that, the little things like that. I worked with the lady, probably about 99, 2000, and she lived up the street from him in Park City. I used to go by there all the time and give her sights and write her up for cars in her driveway and stuff like, or in the grass and stuff like that. And I think when they went through his barn and stuff, he had some pictures of her and maybe some of her panties and bra. He'd been up in her house, you know what I mean, taking stuff. And when he did the interviews about him, he's saying, a lot of lucky people, because I was trolling. So anyway, so that's just a lot of terror that he had caused. Anyway, so that's enough of that part. Okay, I'm going through the chat now. Well, thank everybody for being here, and I'll try to answer any questions or anything. Anything you want to say, just type it up now, and I'll try to catch it. And I'm coming on for about 2:30, so I'm about 30 minutes behind. Oh, you guys are talking about different serial killers. Yeah, it sucks that you have so many to pick from, The Grim Sleeper wasn't white. No, he wasn't. Isn't it? Oh, okay. That's one picture I guess I didn't show, actually. What's the picture of him? Sorry, that's one I didn't pull up. I'm sorry. I dropped the ball on that. In fact, there's two of them. I'm sorry. Those are the two pictures I didn't transfer over, folks. I'm sorry. See if I can get them though for y'all. Okay, there they are. Sorry, I'll get them. I'll get them up for y'all. I apologize. I dropped the ball on that. Well, I've got two pictures of him. Goodness. Now I'm going to tell you something that I find very disconcerting about this individual. There he is. That's the Grim Sleeper, Lonnie Walker. Killed 10 counts of murder and suspected for killing well over 100. Not quite 180. The picture book he had 180 women in it. And there's been like, I think 3 or 4 of them they've been able to locate. But a lot of those others are missing women. So that goes into the 200 Black women that were prostitutes that are missing, that the Margaret Prescott Black Coalition Fighting Back Serial Murders is trying to address, is letting people know, and just the whole thing, the way we deal with that changing in big cities. If you got a prowler on the way, they need to be known. Now I'm gonna tell you what's disconcerting about this. All right, when I first came forward, I had a couple brothers who tried to put me in a pincher movement and first befriend me, and then and they're actually the ones that introduced me to Homegirl. But that's neither here nor there. But anyway, they tried to befriend me at first. Then they tried to go back and do a pincher movement on me and get mad and say, oh, well, Barry only talks about melanin some of the time. He should talk about it all the time. That's all he should ever talk about. And the other things, we've seen him interacting with contactees that aren't melanin dominant. They're melanin recessive. And then the third thing was, oh, he's talking about Black Dot Theory. He's releasing ancient text, ancient information, melanated information. Okay, and one of the brothers that had a problem with me are these two cats. One of them was this punk ass comedian. The other one is a cat. I'm not going to say his name, but he looks a lot like this cat. All right, he looks a lot like this cat. And I'm wondering, like, man, is that some sort of is that some sort of genetic deal? Yeah. I mean, definitely. And he's, one of those cats that was sending me a bunch of pictures. What is this? Can you tell me what this is? Can you tell me what that is? And comes off like they're, absolutely, Malcolm X or something online and stuff. But they're sending me pictures of orbs and stuff. They're sitting up there with a Caucasian person, little female. That's obviously their girlfriend. So quit acting like that. Maybe you're just a normal person like me. It's okay. It's okay to be a normal person. You don't got to try to be somebody on that anyway. But whatever. But anyway, as I found it creepy when I saw this brother and the fact these two cats, but nobody knows what this brother looks like. But he looks just like this cat. They could be walking down the street, twins. This food for thought. They talk about clothing. They talk about all that stuff. So anyway, okay, back to chat, everybody. Sorry, I'm having too much fun with that. Ursur, what's up, my friend? Thank you for coming. Amy, thank you for coming. Amy, did we do a session together? Was that you or was that the other Amy? I know there's 3 Amy's that came from Jessica's group. I've done a session with 1 or 2. I'm trying to remember. Are you one that we did a session? Just curious. Everyone I've done sessions with in Jessica's audience has been really cool. They've been really nice, good, whether it's regression, earthbound spirit, or whatever it might be. It's been really, really good. And I've got a few people I need to answer tonight too. That I missed a couple of emails. Van Snyder, what's happening? How you doing? Roger Blair, welcome, welcome. Jack's Back, starring James Spader. Man, I don't think I've seen that one, Roger. I remember one movie of his I liked, Tough Turf. You remember Tough Turf? That was a pretty good movie. In fact, that's the first movie I ever saw James Spader in, actually. All right, let's see. And of course, I like Boston Legal, too. Dark Shadows, yeah. Oh, Barticus. Moesha, I love General Hospital because my mom watched it whole life. Right on, right on. Yeah, I've been Lifetime. Now, here's something really cool, Moesha. Check this out. If you watch it, so you know Sonny Corinthos, played by Maurice Bernard, he started doing a couple of years ago, he started doing a show on Sundays called State of Mind. And you know, Maurice Bernard in real life is bipolar too. And I remember when I would rush home because that was the year I was about to graduate, like 91, 92. I mean, I would rush home and get there in time, so I had a half day at school, and I would get to watch the second half of the General Hospitals and come on till 2. I remember when he showed up as the strip owner or whatever, and then he disappeared like after, I don't know, a month or two. What happened in real life is he had a nervous breakdown and he got committed, like straight jacket and everything in real life. And then after that, he came back after a time. They had him back, and they started writing in at a point. They wrote in Sonny to where he's bipolar now. So he plays Sonny as bipolar too. Now, on State of Mind, he's addressed, it's all about really mental health, but he's had so many people on there that are General Hospital, past, present, or current people in the industry that have mental health or whatever. You know what I mean? And what's kind of tripped is the people he's had on there on that show that have died, like not long after they were on there. Not because they're on there. I think it's just the process of things. Not that it's cursed or nothing. But one would be Bobby Zeman, Jackie's was it Spencer, Bobby Spencer. She was on there and then she passed. Monica Quartermain, Leslie Charleston, she was on there. She died after not long after that. The one younger dude, Brando Corbin, he was like a bartender somewhere downtown at night, and he got killed. So people were jacking his muffler when he or his catalytic converter. He came out and they shot him. And he was what was really interesting about that State of Mind is when he's sitting there. Maurice talked about later. He said, I almost didn't air it initially because the camera was off or failing kind of, and he's sitting there in a weird glow. That cat, I can't remember the actor's name, but he's sitting there in a weird glow. And Maurice is like, I think that's for a reason. So just it's really interesting in that way. And something that's really cool about COVID, the only good thing about COVID is that COVID put mental health on the map, period. It's no longer the same ashamed thing to talk about mental health like it was before. You know what I mean? And that's coming from me because, look, I'm just a person, y'all. I'm not a guru. I'm not a teacher. I'm not none of that stuff. And I'm somebody that survived 4 catastrophic traumatic brain injuries that one of them would have killed most people. Okay, so when that was over during my recovery, I dealt with depression and some other things. You know what I mean? Frustration, all these things. That's why sometimes I get a little bit touchy when somebody has talk to me about healing, like they're coaching me on healing. Don't tell me about healing. I've actually done it. I'm not just talking it. Okay, it's not like General Hospital. Somebody hits their head and they come to a few days later, be a few clouds. And what happened? It's not like that. When you take some traumatic brain injuries and you have to recover from them, especially just things I was blessed, manual dexterity. I didn't have problems like that. Very, very blessed. But emotionally, it takes a toll on you, and depression and all that type of stuff. So I'm glad to see that mental health is come to the forefront like it has now. You know what I mean? I think it's very important. I was watching, Maurice was talking about Kanye, And he was saying, "Oh, Kanye is bipolar 2 like him, and he doesn't take meds." And he's like, "Man, in that situation," he said, some things do need meds, and bipolar 2 is one of them. And he said, if not, he said he's gonna have anyone around him is gonna have a hard time. Anybody dealing with somebody bipolar 2, they have a hard time. And I've known a few. It's a trip. Or somebody with narcissistic personality disorder. They're a trip to deal with. Get into a relationship with one of those people and not know it until it's too late. You're in for a hell of a ride. Anyway, um, going down. Sorry, I went the wrong way on the chat. Okay, I'm going down. Millie, welcome. Let's see. Ooh, see y'all beyond me right there. Urso, what's up? Okay. So I've seen everybody's kind of just talking amongst yourselves. I appreciate you all being here. Oh yeah, that's something I didn't mention. Sorry about the Grim Sleeper. He was found dead in his cell. Um, 4/28/20. So March the 28th, 2020. He was found dead in his cell, and they say supposedly there was no signs of, blunt trauma or anything like that. But yeah. Okay, going down. Edos, yeah. I study plasma and plasma consciousness and plants and stress also. Not sure if that's science though, it might be. When it comes to Amy, when it comes to plasma, I think it's very important. So check this out. Look this up, Amy. I'm gonna give you a name of something, okay? It's super plasma. Okay, this go to YouTube, Amy, and type in sorry, I'll give you the exact thing. Superheated plasma from space touched down 12,800 years ago in Louisiana, the Perkins Plume crater. Sorry, that's a lot, but that's actually the time. Excuse me. That's actually the title of this video, okay? And it was put up a while ago, or, about 3 weeks ago. Again, the name of this video is Superheated Plasma from Space Touched Down 12,800 years ago in Louisiana, the Perkins Plume Crater. And what that is a place that used to have still water in it at this crater out there in this guy's land or near his land that they all used to shoot guns in and stuff. But actually, there's signs that it's once he started digging into it, that it's a meteor impact. And even more than that, the type of meteor impacts that they found seems to show that this meteor was almost pure plasma when it impacted. And so it's kind of going in along with the driest period. Now, those of you that know, I got the pleasure about it, was it almost 2 years ago by now, I got to meet Randall Carlson when I was presenting in Vegas. He was presenting there too. And we went up talking in that little room up there for a while. And I really like what he says about the driest period, especially the end of the Ice Age. So when you're doing that, and some of the things that were almost tying some of these things into these pimples, and MK Davis has talked about it too, these pimples that are around that area that actually are somewhat close to some near the, I think, the Carolina Bays. You start dealing with Randall Carlson, he talks about how one of these impacts of this asteroid or this plasma or whatever it is created these plumes that went down, and like the chunks. And wherever the chunks hit, he thought that's what the Carolina Bays were and other things. These heated pieces that went up upon impact. So that's just interesting when dealing with that. So sorry, I was looking at something on there. Anyway, sorry. That's concerning plasma. So just looking that up there is kind of evidence of that plasma part. And something else about plasma, okay, Amy, is that those crop circles, and that's one of the things I advise everybody to go to either Jessica's channel or mine. You could go to the playlist, and there's one I've got, only remote viewing with Jessica, and look at the crop circle video that we did, remote viewing the crop circles. I gave it as a blind target. And those are actually the plasma balls that were making one of those crop circles. Probably, I think, the best one. That's the one she got kind of emotional on and got a positive experience or positive message from those beings that were doing that. But also, I think when dealing with, could the crop circles also be time markers, because you've got time travelers that are coming back from the future once we go to the next evolution, where we really stop having these physical containers to house our physical our consciousness, and we go to a different container, one that might be one of high energy plasma. And those crop circles are actually made by, those are high energy plasma balls that are making it. And if you check out the work of Dr. Livingood, that can be proven by, they actually produce the stalks, and the seeds have been exposed to something called an electron avalanche. And the electron avalanche comes from the microwaves that actually heat it up, and then the high plasma energy also makes actually the seeds themselves much more resilient, and that's why those yield even more product than they did previously. Those are the ones that show the stems that are bent a certain way, that is not the guys that are making the fake ones, okay, or the ones that seem to give the negative energy too. So I think that's things we need to be aware of, and is that an attempt to show us both biologically and symbolically a way to combat food shortage on this planet. Food for thought, Anyway, sorry, but that's what, when you say plasma and plants and everything, I think that's where it's at. Definitely, and yeah. And I'm very into trees, and I'm into the trees and Sasquatch thing. And I've been mentioning lately how trees actually hold a little bit higher natural radiation than we would think, as well as does granite. So things like that, you have all these interesting things that happen around, and clusters that happen around granite. Millie, what's happening? You saw Time After Time. I thought it was a great movie. I really did. Good acting, good plot. But my brother Reggie didn't like it. That movie's sorry. Is everything sorry? He looked at me, of course. Then he went off on me about, my brother Reggie hates Carl Weathers. He went off on me, he said, Carl Weathers was a sorry Apollo Creed. I said, no, he wasn't. He played the hell out of that role. He was a great Apollo. You know what I mean? He just shouldn't have danced himself out to James Brown. That's all. That's how he died. And Rocky should have told his son, hey, kid, hey, yo, kid, I'm sorry, but your dad danced himself out to James Brown, and when he got in there, he has nothing left. He got killed in like one round, 1.3 rounds by a dude just 2 inches taller, I'm all serious. Y'all, those of y'all that like movies, I'm telling the truth. Go back and watch Rocky 4. At Rocky 4, when they're in the dressing room, he told them then. He said, hey, yo, Rocky. He said, yo, Apollo, try not to wear yourself out before you go up there. And he's telling him, I'm in the best shape of my life, Stallion. And he told him, hey, yo, maybe we should just postpone this because you really don't know nothing about this guy. And he told him again, I think you got brain injuries, Stallion. He dogged him hard. He went out there for some Coming to America, and he got dealt with. Anyway. Oh, sorry, yo. Sometimes I have too much fun on that. Sorry. That's part of what you have to deal with me as I go through references and entertainment. I think it's part of the past life deal. Oh. Yeah, everybody's talking about the Doctor Who and the Jack the Ripper one. I don't think I've seen that one, to be quite honest. Not if it's a current one, that is. I can't remember an old one that dealt with the Ripper, really. Huh. Which Doctor was it? I worked as a trash man. Yeah. There's if you go to YouTube and type in the Grim Sleeper, Lonnie Walker, a couple of different documentaries will come up, but one is with these British guys, and they came here and they did a really good one. They interviewed almost everybody that they could get to talk to him that was concerning him, and they were pretty objective about it. You know what I mean? It was pretty good, and I think they were risking their life quite a bit. When it was by Lonnie's house, where their people called him called him the P word and told him to go on somewhere. and then they wind up talking to them brothers though, and the brothers started telling them all sorts of stuff. It's very interesting when they go in depth about that. But that's probably the best documentary I've seen about him. Anyway, the lady in the French Quarter. Yeah, yeah. The thing with my friend Kelly Fager, it was even postulated that it might be a copycat from Dennis Rader, BTK copycat. That's been even suggested. We're all the same color under black light. That's interesting, because all Skittles taste the same. So we'll just throw that in that category. If you don't believe me, do a blind test, blindfold even a kid, and give them a test it. See how many. Give them like 10 Skittles, and see how many out of 10 they get right. You'll be amazed. It'll be very few. The ratio is very much off. Each Skittle tastes the same. That's a great marketing strategy. Hey, Jessica, what's up? 313, I'm seeing you. Thanks for coming, Jessica. Brooke Michelle, thank you for coming. They could be possessed as well. Sorry, I don't know what to. What's up, Amy? Thank you. Chin up, you're photogenic. Oh, thanks. I don't know about that. You better be careful. Might crack y'all's camera. Thanks, Millie. I appreciate that. Cosmic Joe series comes out soon. Flyers are annoying. Way too many carry commit to each other. The flyers look like. Do the flyers look like? Okay, Tamara, at my raw. Sorry, the flyers, they look like trash bags sometimes. The one I saw looked like a shadow. It was a dense shadow, and when I heard the thump, it's because they're very dense. I like the charge of the thump thing. And when Castaneda talks about it, he heard a thump too, and some type of a noise, and that's because they're very dense. So it tells you wherever they come from is a dense world, a dense area, definitely. Now, what's interesting, at Ra Tamara, please check out, if you go to the playlist, go to remote viewing with Jessica Jones on this channel, and there's one video that is about a place called GCE Peru, and there's a lady named Gladys Cordova that's got these mountains behind her, and she's got all sorts of anomalies she films back there. I mean, all sorts of stuff, including she got kind of well known because she's got these giants standing back on this mountain back there, and they're filming them, and her daughters like standing there. They're watching these guys, and one of them's sitting down, and the other guy's kind of bending down or something. Then they stand up, and the other guy stands up, and her daughter starts going, "Oh, I'm scared, because they're these giants." And later, there's actually scientists that go out there and measure these rocks and show how tall these people were. Okay, it's like a real deal. And it starts going back to all the giants that they talk about from Peru out there, and giants that are written on like different glyphs and things like that. So it kind of takes us into that. And something I had Jessica remote view. There's another one that on that video, if you go to the comments of that one, I placed a couple ones. One is one of Gladys's pictures of this man walking down this mountain. And he's got on this white outfit. Okay. And he's walking, and she just calls it the odd man walking down the deal. And you can tell his size is improportionate also. Okay. And she told me that when we started, I put a video out. We did that remote view, and I put a video out about her, and she started contacting me. It's kind of cool. So the translation helped with the thing, but she said that man was telepathically talking to her, and I said, "Well, what did he say?" And she just responded, "Well, nothing too important." Didn't tell me what I need to know anyway. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is that Tamara, is that some of the anomalies she sees out there on the mountain are one that look like these dryer sheets. I mean, these things blowing around that literally look like dryer sheets floating around, and they seem to be sentient, and they come out of these portals. And another, these things that look like almost trash bags. They're floating around out there, and they look very, I mean, you see one of them, she calls them interdimensional beings, extra interdimensional being EODs or something she calls them. All right. But they're very interesting. You can see sometimes these things will turn into birds. She's got all that on film. So Jessica remote viewed a lot of that. GCE Peru. I think that lady doesn't get nearly the credit she should. She's got a lot of anomalies on her YouTube channel. Just go to GCE Peru, Gladys Cordova, Cordo. Ooh. Cordova, Cordo, I think VR. Anyway, you'll get it. You'll get it. GCE Peru. Anyway, sorry. Bury my alien encounters in the corner of my bedroom would be a round balloon the size of a basketball, look like wavy Mercury to the Silver Surfer from Marvel. Okay. Okay, so check this out. So last week, I'm not going to show it. I'm sorry, I'll get too fumbling with trying to find a picture. Last week, I talked about mana and the experiences. I showed the eggs on board the craft. Inside those eggs, these eggs is in each room, were these different types of condensed light, plasma configuration, these balls and different things in there. They look like that, and those are actually, at first I thought, like I mentioned that during that show, I thought those were actually power sources, but I found out later that they're actually entities. I think probably, to be honest with you, I wonder if they're like command officers. Would everybody like me to find that picture and try to show it real quick of the craft? I think I might be able to do it. Let's see. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to show one. It's not a picture that I showed last time. Poor Christine was so very, very good to me. Okay. I was very exacting on a lot of these pictures. And this was before the era of AI. Okay. So she was doing these, however she does them. But this is one that was one of the ones that wasn't quite what I was looking for, but it still very much illustrates what I was seeing, all right, and what I was experiencing, excuse me. And I showed this last time, so I don't want to be too. Oh. Well, that didn't work. Okay, sorry, that didn't work. I'll get it here. Okay, sorry, I just want to be able to answer her question here. If I didn't just screw everything up here. All right, I think I got it now. All right, there it is. Sorry, folks. Okay. Okay, as mentioned, sorry about that. Okay, I'm back with you now. Amy. Okay, Amy. Here you go, Amy. I'm not sure if you were here last week or not. So if you were, I apologize because this will seem repetitive, but it's still worth a look though. Okay, here. Okay, that's not what this isn't one of the pictures I showed last week exactly. The other one had several smaller manas in it, but that's mana there at the bottom there, the amphibious being. These eggs, okay, this is some of the bigger ones in this room, but there were these eggs in each room. And the back wall there, as you can see, it's like got this, although they were hexagon like, some of them, it was still the consistency of this like mushroom, but harder. Okay. And in the back of these metal, the front was like this really clear glass, it looked like to me. And the back would be this metal stuff, like mesh, and the back, it was like a metal in the back. And then there were these like organic tubes that go into the wall behind this thing. Okay. And I thought these were power sources at first, because in several of these rooms, these beings that look like mana, but they're smaller, they're looking at these eggs. Okay. And I thought maybe, but I thought they were power sources. But then in another room where I got sick, two of those things came out and helped me. But the reason why I'm showing this to you, Amy, is because some of them, that's not illustrating this one, but some of them were these pink looking plasma balls. And they're rather big. And I know now that these were beings that were actually either command officers or whatever the case is, higher beings. But I can tell you that, people talk about encounters. I must respect everybody. But when we talk about being on a multidimensional ship, this is a real one. And I'm telling you what it was like to be on one physically. Okay. So what you're dealing with there, these weren't power sources. What these are quote unquote portals. But what they are cohesive pathways to either another dimension or another universe. And the reason why these lights aren't coming out is because just the portion of this ship that I'm on, temporal speaking, where I can exist physically there. I know I was there physically because I could touch things, okay? It's different. And I'm getting sick, that temporal aphasia, very sick in each one of those rooms, okay? So the thing is that but for these beings that are made of that, what you've got is the thicker mist inside the egg than even is on the rest of the ship. But that mist and everything, that's their environment. That's a pathway from their dimension or whatever into ours. And you got to remember, ours is our dimension, our universe is based on the spin. So the spear is a way to use, one of the ways to get a pathway. And that's what that is, what we're seeing there. Okay. But I think for them to come out of those eggs, even the portion that is physically enough for me to exist there is very dangerous for them. That's what I believe vibrationally. And some of the things that Xandar and another experience had told me about what it's like for them to be in this solar system. It's dangerous. The density is dangerous. And when you start dealing with some life forms that are pure thought forms from way out cosmically, or another dimension even, but even just whatever, way out there, like from a bell, like I said last time, they come here and they're thought forms, but as they get here, they start amassing physicality all the way, but they're straight pure thought forms. It takes us to things like what Star Trek's called super beings, like Q, or like the Dowd, beings like that. Anyway, just food for thought, Amy. I just thought you'd find that interesting. So, but there are times that I'd be out practicing something, and this goes back to Castaneda. It's something called, the gate of power. And what that really does is, I didn't know, but ultimately what it does, it's a very odd way of running at night. But what it is, it goes back to the great walkers that walked across the Bering Strait and all that. But anyway, so I think what it really does is stops your internal dialogue, stops you from talking to yourself. And I get done doing this technique, and I'm just torque through this field. And I look up and I start seeing like a ship manifesting. And then not long after that, I start seeing what my Native American friend used to call wisp. They look like fireflies. They go out real quick, big fireflies. But it's the middle of January. It's cold as hell out there. There's no way it was fireflies. But they're so quick. You know what I mean? They go quick, and I'm trying to see them. Like, are these fairies? What are they? But they're so quick. They're lit up for a second, and they go out. See, I didn't understand that what I was seeing was non-corporeal crew members from that ship I'm seeing out there. That never dawned on me. See what I mean? Because I'm so tripped out. Because the fact I'm seeing that ship out there, I'm sorry, but there's a big chance it could come closer, and suddenly I'm going to be missing a lot of effing time, okay? And it's happened to me many times. Then I got to go through trying to figure out what happened and remember, because you start losing it right after the encounter, and you got to try to retain the memory and go through all that hassle. So I'd be tripping. I said, screw the gate of power. I ran back to my car straight up. I tripped on the way, took off. Anyway, but just point being, just those lights, though, when you're dealing with that type of plasma, that type of condensed life forms, on the hyperdimensional even level, is kind of what you might be dealing with. And also transporting through dimensions or through densities, the spherical form is very efficient. That's why we learn how to actually shift our energy body, our dream body, aka Merkaba, into a sphere and use that for interdimensional transport. So food for thought on that. Just thought you might find that interesting, Amy. That's all. Anyway, like I said, so that's somewhat like us to be on one of those ships that's multidimensional. You know what I mean? Really, and a different type of crew members you have. So anyway, sorry, I probably went way too long on that. What's up, Jessica? Okay. Cryptoville, hey, thanks for coming, man. Appreciate you being here. Those 4 lights. Oh, yeah, you're right. I said 5 lights. Yeah, no, the 4 lights. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's like a famous one. I got to tell you, though, Matthew, you know what I like more than that? Darmok and Jalad on the ocean. I thought that was a great episode. And I really like Paul Winfield, who played the other creature, the other captain. He's the same cat that when I was on Terminator, the first Terminator, he was the police detective or the police captain. He's the only person that really believed Reese, too. If you go back and watch those clips of the original Terminator, he was on to that was real the whole time. He wasn't laughing or nothing. You know what I mean? Of course, he didn't make it. He got smoked, but that's all right. Jenny Martinez, thank you for coming. Tennessee, Kentucky Bigfoot, what's happening? Thank you for coming. Okay, sorry, I'm trying to catch up. I'll probably get out soon, but I just want to make sure I've talked to acknowledged everybody. I appreciate everybody coming. DNA evidence suggests Jack the Ripper was a Jewish immigrant from Poland. What's happening, Tennessee, Kentucky Bigfoot? You weren't here at the beginning, okay? Please go back and watch the beginning of this whole thing. that was about actually my mentor and friend, Dr. William Eckert, and how he actually conducted a whole thing about the Jack the Ripper on a show that was called The Secret Identity of Jack the Ripper in 1988, and how he told me before that show even was, he flew over to England to do it, that he thought that the Ripper was a guy named Aaron Kaminsky. And there were five people that were suspected of being the Ripper. One was M.J. Druitt, the other Sir William Gull, another one Aaron Kaminsky, another one Dr. Francis Tumblety, another one Prince Albert Victor, and the last Walter Sickert. And he had told me that he thought it was Aaron Kaminsky, who was a Polish immigrant, and he was a barber, and also went to, there were records of him being in like 2 different mental institutions. And he thought that that's who the Ripper actually was. And on that video that I already posted it one time in the links twice, actually. Here it is again. Oh, no, it's not on there. Hold on, let me get it, and I'll put it up again here so everybody can get a look at it. It's really good. Dr. Eckert is on there, and at the end of that, he's the first one that says, I believe it was Aaron Kaminsky. And amazingly, all the other experts there just seem to coincidentally agree with him, you know. But anyway, that was a very long time ago, because there was a 1-800 number during that show that you could call in for one of these 5 people you thought it was. Okay, it was that type of a deal. It was that era, 1988. And the reason why I wanted to give my friend mention and give him props is because he had said that, and now years later, what was that, in 2020, I think, they did that DNA evidence from, Eddowes. What was her name? Catherine Eddowes, the shawl. They did the DNA test on that and traced it back on the mitochondrial to somebody in Aaron Kaminsky's maternal family, like his sister or somebody. So, I mean, that right there, and there was a big argument about, it's not valid. There were gene sequence problems, and they don't know how they really got the shawl and all these other things. But all I can say, where there's smoke, there's fire, like my mother used to say, and I think it really gives credit to my friend. He was an absolute genius. Anyway, so that's that. And there's a character on General Hospital named after him, named Bill Eckert. And he said the food that they served there, the catering, was good. So the extras are really eating. What's up, Daryl? Thank you for coming too. Okay, Jessica's asking for questions. Gosh, I'm getting caught up. I'm at 336. Tamara, what's happening? Okay. Melanin outperforms lab-made EMF shield on the planet. Interesting. You know, actually, when it comes for EMF shield, maybe even opposed to that or complementing that would be some of the fungi that they're trying to use and convert to a type of a shield against solar radiation for the International Space Station. Okay, you can look that up. It's a type of mycelium that they're trying to make for an actually shield, a mycelium shield for the International Space Station. And it would shield from solar radiation and EMF also. So it's kind of interesting when thinking about that as well as, you know, U-melanin too, and other things has that property also. But when checking out, and I'll even incorporate that with you also, with that is I've talked a lot about the deep biosphere of Earth. The deep biosphere of the Earth is where 99% of Earth's was it 90? I've seen different estimates, but it's always in the higher 90s of Earth's undiscovered bacteria and fungal components. And when we start dealing with that bacterial components, it's what's called dark microbial matter. That's what it is. So it's melanin dominant. All right. And I think that's very important when we start thinking about melanin dominant fungus, like the radiotropic fungus that's found on the walls of Chernobyl and Fukushima, and how it uses the gamma radiation, converts it into the growth cycle. Okay, and how I mentioned before that was, I've talked to scientists when I first came forward, and scientists telling me, but they just disappear. They come from like these phantom accounts, but I think they're real. And they said, man, we think that actually that's been given from a type, 3 or 4 civilization to help us combat radiation cleanup and the radiation poisoning. So it's food for thought on that when we start dealing with civilizations that exist not just on the nano, but on the pico, and they're exploring space from inner space, a whole nother thing going on. Can you imagine if Dr. Lear had pulled chips out of people that had supposedly over a mile of carbon nanotubes in them if they were stretched out? Okay, that's just on the nanotechnology. Can you imagine the pico? And then can you imagine civilization like that creating a Dyson sphere around their solar system? Okay, like a Death Star that encapsulates symbolically, excuse me, for a Dyson sphere. Although I think they could be shaped totally different than just a sphere, but around an entire solar system, you know. And I've been convinced that when I was at the Assetti Ranch and I had got Silly Land, I'm sorry, the owner's glasses and binoculars, infrared. And it's amazing. I was out there 3 times. I never saw those till the final time I was out there, and was doing a zoom. Okay, and I could see these these huge, look like stars going from galaxy, constellation to constellation, galaxy to galaxy, real quick. It was unreal. So people started laughing because the way I was acting, I was tripped out. I started, oh my God. And I said, how can you possibly laugh? Have you not seen this? When I was doing that work privately with Dr. Rudy Shields, I asked him about that. I said, I said, I want to know what I was seeing. And he's like, Barry, what do you think it was? I said, well, one, I think some of it connects to what they call fast radio bursts. But the other thing I think it was actually these Dyson spheres, that have Dyson sphere around their entire solar system, and they're doing hyperspace intergalactic travel. And we can see it to a degree. And you know what he said? He said, Barry, I think it's exactly what you think it is. I was shocked to hear him say that. I thought for sure he was going to have something different he was going to say, or shoot that down or something. That's how he reacted. That's what his answer to me was. So it takes us to a whole nother level. We're talking about really these type 4 and 5 civilizations. What are they? Those that still exist outside of the Mako itself, but they're going to exist there too, because they're using the Mako for their power source. So that means they're automatically within the Akashic records, and that Mako, that information that actually is inside the black hole, the portal itself. Okay. Anyway, I know I repeat myself a lot, folks, but I think it's important because it all ties together, and it shows I'm not just another kook. Anyway, I said to Phoenix, thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. I'm glad you could catch it. I appreciate that. Oh, sorry. Don't worry. I won't keep you guys too much longer. I was trying to make sure I get through the chat totally, because I so much appreciate everybody being here. Jenny, Barry, spirit release. Can spirit release? Is that what you were saying there? Sorry, might have been a typo. Oh, there it is. Can spirit release on me help my dog with cancer? If you mean a spirit release as in far as earthbound spirit release on you that could be affecting your dog and cancer, I don't know if there would be a connection there. But I mean, if you think you have earthbound spirits attached to you, though, that's something you do want to get rid of, though. But as far as could it be influencing your dog's cancer or help with the healing if you got rid of it, I mean, are you already a healer of cancer already, and has it been impeding you? If that's the case, probably yes. So that's a pretty difficult question to answer, Jenny. Sorry, good one though, really good one. Excuse me. People don't like when I talk on a video and stay away from my work. Sorry you're experiencing that, Joe. Tennessee, Kentucky Bigfoot. Lab use white mice, rats since they lack melanin. Darker mice have more melanin, make them more disease resistant and recover faster, which skews test results. Wouldn't doubt that at all. But the one thing that is different though is dealing with the blue light mice. They use that on all of them, and they all seem to respond to that blue light about the same. The aggression goes up and everything, and it says a lot for us that are looking at our phone all the time. Firewater. Greetings, Joe. Thanks for being late to the party. Thank you, T. Toy. I've had some people want me to write a book. I can tell you, all the illustrations I show was for a book I was trying to write that my black ass never been able to sit down and do. And I can't even use the fact, well, hey, I took a bunch of TBIs, so maybe that's what's messing up. I can't do it. That has nothing to do with it because I couldn't do it long before I ever had an accident. So it's this is one of those things. I've chosen to do a lot of my information through YouTube, through short videos. Before I started doing lives, I did, was it 400 videos or 300? I think it's hundreds of videos on here. And you had to go to the playlist to see them all. They're all short and quick, but that's kind of how I relayed a lot of my information. I will write a book one day. I need to. So thanks for the encouragement on that. Firewater, Daryl Stanley. You drinking firewater, homie? I don't like that stuff, man. It's a cinnamon. It's too much cinnamon. Titoy, thank you. I love hearing that. I'll write on. I don't know exactly what it was, but thanks for saying that. I'm glad I said something right. I didn't heal alone, Barry. A Bigfoot guided me through humming and showed me where the frequency. Jesus helped me do so rest on my own. Okay, so check this out, Amy. Please go to, again, the playlist of this channel. Go to the Bigfoot or the Asceti playlist. It's on both of them. It should be. And check out the Asceti chanting, Sasquatch and the Asceti chanting. At night, I would, I don't sleep well, so I'd be out there looking at UFOs going in and out of the mountain till about crack of dawn, which would be about like even about 4 out there, and then I go back and then I, try to get a couple hours of sleep. Okay, but just before I start falling asleep, really early in the morning, several times I start hearing this chanting, and it sounded like a mix, and it was like almost telepathic, like clairaudient. Okay, it definitely was clairaudient, but it sounded like a mix of like Native American dance music and Gregorian chant. And at first I thought it was maybe just echoes, clairaudient echoes of the land out there. But then I started wondering because it seemed so precise. Then time goes on, I start hearing Scott Nelson and some other people talking about, linguists talking about this chanting that they've heard this Sasquatch doing in Texas, I think it was. And they were saying that they thought that maybe this chanting, they didn't know if this chanting, it only happens near human habitations. And they don't know if the Sasquatch is chanting to help the people, to protect the people, or to protect themselves, or to heal. But that's what it's this chanting. So I think that's fascinating. So you've heard that. Yeah, I don't doubt that at all. And if they can produce infrasound and also um, uh, uh, infrasound, maybe ultrasound too. Healing would be one of the things they could do along with screaming behind amongst mountain ranges, which is just amazing when you hear something like that. You know, that type of a healing. That's very fascinating. I don't doubt that at all. Um, yeah. So anyway, good point on that. A different type of healing. Healing from the Sasquatch. Yeah, yeah. Something else I was going to say connected to that also. Um, oh, it reminds me of that lady. I think her name is Lori. Hmm, Lori. She's got people started getting on her because she's got the cat. She calls it the Ascended Master Cat Buddha. I had somebody I knew that told me that that lady had. I never actually talked to her. I tried, but she didn't really respond. But that she had some type of a deal where she had like some type of a cancer or something like that that was almost terminal. It is terminal, and she decided to go out to just swim past the point of no return and drown. And when she got out there, and before she could drown, these dolphins came up, or porpoises or dolphins. They were dolphins, and they started singing to her, and they actually swam her and pushed her back to the beach, and they sang to her the whole way back. And when like rescuers got there or whatever, or people came, they could see these dolphins wobbling back off the beach into the water. Okay, and I believe that she was healed of this cancer or something, and she was saying that she believes that the singing of the dolphins healed her. So it's one of those things there. I think this was very interesting stories, and if dolphins are capable of doing that, why wouldn't Sasquatch possibly? Although I know the dolphins also can emit even electric static charge through their beak, and also the things they can emit from sonar too. But through that B complex that developed part of their brain, the endocrine system. But anyway, that's just interesting food for thought on that. Okay, tuning in. Welcome. Who's that? Beth. What's up, Beth? Welcome. James Spader. James Spader keeps coming up. Tough Turf. That was a brutal movie. Tamara, I haven't seen the trash back on. That's a remote viewing one. Yeah, check that one out, and please check out her channel too, Gladys Cordova, Cordova. Check out her channel too. She's got just tons of videos on there. You'll see some of those black trash bag looking things, but also some of those dryer sheets, some of them turning into birds, portals opening and closing. Very interesting. She's got the giants on there, and also that man of unknown, weird man walking down the mountain. So Joyce Hartman, thank you for being here. All right. Great chat, folks. Cryptoville, thank you. Thank you for being here. I appreciate that. Thank you. Doria, I'm almost caught up, but I'm at 411, so I'm almost there. Just make sure I don't miss anybody. Thank you, Brooke. I appreciate that. It's my pleasure. That anybody even listens, but it's a trip. This is something I didn't want to even talk about. I was like, this is too much about something I experienced in terms of why I'm into something, and I want to get on here, me, one of those people, self-indulged. But Spirit kept saying I'm supposed to talk about it because it's just the information itself can help some people and at least turn them on to some different concepts or whatever. So I just go with it. Oh, cool. Sorry, I think I just skipped down a little too much. I might have missed a few people. Sorry. Spring Hill Jack. Another one of those entities that just jumps into our field of awareness and then jumps away. And I think that's got a lot to do with, you have on this planet, like I mentioned before, we've got, the earth, we've got this earth that has us beings that have organism with consciousness with organism, physical body. And you've got the other earth that has beings with consciousness and no organic, no physical, thus inorganic being, non-physicals. And those beings jump in our field of awareness all the time. But we're so filtered out, just maintaining this in its agreement and dealing with this world that we don't perceive it half of the time. And when sometimes you do, is it a being like Spring Heel Jack jumps in front of your field of awareness, and then jumps away. Think about the way energy balls or energy jumps in field of awareness non-physically and then jumps away. These beings that can kind of go through the veil a little bit. It's real interesting, Talking about some books. Excellent. Jenny Martinez. I'm thinking about seeing Barry. Hit me up at barrylives13@gmail.com. I'll especially be on there the rest of the evening tonight. I've got like 4 emails I need to respond to. I'm almost 2-3 days behind. I got to get caught up. Matthew Watson, what's up, man? Brother Barry, it's Bary, no offense. I was watching a Credo Mudo live yesterday, and the story about ancient humanity sounds just like the Halo lore about the war with the Forerunners and the ancient humans, and is almost it broke off. Yeah, Credo's very, very interesting. Very interesting. Telepathy tapes. Give you a little hint. As far as telepathy, did a couple of videos on it. And that punk cat, I had to watch, somebody sent it to me today, the punk cat that I can't stand. He put out something on telepathy. He's calling it thought transfer. If you go back on this channel 9 years ago, there's a video that punk begged me to do. And that's the term that I use, telepathic thought transfer. Okay, and that's something I've always used. This cat's using all the terms I use, and it's disgusting because I would look at the video, I see the individual actually touching me. Oh my God, where was my mind at? So I guess so much for psychic abilities on that. Anyway, red chicken lights can heal. Interesting. I don't know much about that one. Oh, so curse. Yeah, I do that too. I do that too during hypnosis. I have a technique that is, we can call it curse cutting, but it's also dissolvement as well. And it's a pretty good technique. It's effective. Hit me up on barrylilton13@gmail.com, especially after I get off here. I'm eat dinner and I'll be answering emails all night long. So. My son says melanin people is white. Says melanin. It's melanocytes too. Look up melanocytes. How melanocytes actually produce, and the more pigment, the darker the melanin, the more resistant to solar radiation an individual has. So that's one of those deals there. I'm almost caught up. Both? Yeah, both. Anytime, yeah. Let me know. Just let me know, Amy. I do both. By the way, something everybody's talking about too is there's that new deal where they're using light to do healing. And I've got a video on my Patreon. I probably need to make it public. It's about the ablation of viruses and the ablation of bacteria, but really what certain things can be done by light, sound, and magnetic pulses, healing and ablation of viruses, especially cancer and things that would actually, these techniques that actually vibrate a cancerous tumor to dissolve it while it keeps the non-malignant cells healthy. You know, when I was, again, younger, I used to like to I go down to the science center all the time. And there'd be people down there showing inventions and different contraption. And it was one down there called a Lahovsky MWO oscillator, multiple wave oscillator, Lahovsky. Okay, and it was these circular antennas connected to some type of a static generator, and you sit between the antennas. Okay, the chair in between the antennas. And I sat in between that thing like 10 minutes twice, and it cured my allergies that summer. I've always had horrible allergies. My whole family does. But I mean, that summer, I didn't have hardly any allergy problems. So I became very interested on what it was Lahovsky was saying. And what it is those circular antenna supposed to hit every oscillator through your biofield and through your cells. And it's pretty interesting. You know what I mean? So check that one out. I've got it from the Borderland Sciences, the MWO oscillator book, but I'm sure you can still maybe order one off Amazon or something. Anyway, cool technology to check out, alternative. And that was around there with the Rife machines and around that time. A good animal communicator. Might actually. Truth Seeker, what's up? Candy Zippy, welcome. Thank you for coming. Thank you for going back and watching, and even coming and showing up and joining. I appreciate that. Leanne, what's happening, Leanne? Thank you for coming. Wow, a few people showed up. That's cool. I'm in Texas, but I don't know one, Jenny. I'm sorry. I'm only communicating with animals and friends. Been talking a lot about Texas and East Texas and that whole thing, those habitation. Hell, M.K. Davis on Jessica's show called it a provocation place. I've had hundreds of experiences that are hard to explain to people. I understand. Barry, when are you back on with Soretta? I don't know, whenever she asks. Soretta's a good friend. She's super cool. You know, she's a good psychic too. She's got some good gifts. And she's dealt with maniacal, narcissistic bastards like I have. So she's good. we know she's got great patience. We know that. Carol, what's up, Carol? Thank you for coming. Where can you schedule a session with me? You can do it on my email. I can even type it in. BarryLittleton13@gmail.com. And I'll be answering people all night. So hopefully I get to everybody that answers tonight fairly quickly after dinner. That's my email right there. Please give me an email, Carol. We set something up. Every time, and I say no matter how many sessions I do, I'm always feel brand new every time because each one is different and each one brings a different wealth of knowledge, So it's always appreciated. I think some Bigfoot chased me. I could do it. I think they do it by vibration. I think the same thing for spirits, why some people can see and others can't. T, you'll get no argument from me there, but I found too that I'm pretty sure that those Sasquatch can shapeshift, and I think they do that actually through the dream body. The dream body doesn't have any of the physical parameters of this one, physical conformities of this one. And I think they use the dream body to actually shapeshift the same way the type of shapeshifting I was taught was actually using the dream body. Once the dream body can become as corporeal as this one, and you can shift full cognitive abilities into the dream body. So food for thought on that. I think I've got a couple of videos somewhere on the channel on that, maybe under general. Praying for each other, praying for each other. That's good. Have I laughed yet? Probably earlier when I was talking about. I probably was laughing when I was talking about my friend Dr. Eckert and how he said that on General Hospital, the set, he was an extra on there in the cafe. He'd sit back there and he said, Barry. He had that Eastern accent. Barry, that food is good. That food is catered. It's real good. You get fired. I get full every time I sit there. He's always watched the actors and the ones that are chewing for real. Some of them are eating that food for real. I find that interesting. Matthew Watson, 440. Can charters come to you in dream state? When I was younger, I believe I had an experience that was similar to what you described about them. Yeah, I'm sure they can, definitely. But you have a whole host of beings that can come to you in dream form. When you actually go through all the gates of dreaming, the final thing that you find out is that actually when you wipe away everything, that you're actually perceptually, you find you're standing in the middle of an electron impulse with a bunch of phantasmagorical images. And once you wipe clear of that, it's a matter of what other energy generating beings do you have in your field of perception? Because they hide around through those illusions created by those electron impulses. And the interesting thing is that when you get a negative ones that comes, you have the ones that they call allies, and they normally show up as something foreign in your dream. Like for me, the first time I got to that point, it was in my old apartment, and I had actually broken this glass table I had, and it was it was in my house. I just cleaned everything the night before for real. And this day I went to work. I come back home, everything's so clean. And there's this first generation Ming Voss on this glass table. I went and took a shower, got done, busted me a brew so I could Friday. I'll probably get out tonight. I started looking, boy, this place is so clean. I started looking at vases, man, that thing's just gorgeous. I started thinking, that's the first generation or second generation Ming Voss. And that thing is priceless. And I just got it sitting here on this table in this apartment. There ain't no alarm system on this thing or nothing. I'm gone 12 hours a day. And it didn't make any sense. Didn't make any sense. But it started jarring me when I realized that, man, my God, this isn't real. And then I start looking around, you know what I mean? The second gate, you start shifting your gaze around. And not all of us can really do that. You natural dreamers can, but people like me that are gatherers of energy, stalkers, we have to actually act a certain way and free up enough energy to be able to have dream attention like that, which you guys have naturally. And then when I turn back and look at this vase and put my gazing on it, it turns into a pinkish orange ball of energy and goes through the wall. Now, at that point, I wasn't a trained dreamer enough to know that since I'm in dream body, I could physically follow it through the wall and into whatever realm it's going into. But man, that crap is dangerous. You mess around, get caught up in there or something. So those type of dream practices are very dangerous. Anyway, food for thought on that. Sorry. But anyway, the positive thing is, yes, they can definitely come to you during the dream state, like a charter or something else. I've had a number of people, both clients and non-clients, that have seen a UFO for maybe just 10 seconds or something, and in a group of people, and only one person can see it, or two people, everybody else, where? But then 2-3 days later, they start having dreams about extraterrestrials or about strange creatures or strange people or being strange places. Very vivid dreams, but they don't put it connection to that little thing they saw in the sky 3 days later for like 5 seconds. But when you're dealing with the super conscious level, that vibration, that speed, that frequency, and even the subconscious for that matter, but really the super conscious, okay, information can come through instantaneously at that speed. So the time you're looking for a couple of seconds, all sorts of information can be downloaded to you. And it's weird because you think that, like, when we think of like in Star Trek concepts, I know I mentioned this last one, but it's important, all right? That you think that, oh my gosh, there's nobody else could see that but me. What do you think could there be a whole federation, like the Federation of Star Trek, that stopped all those beings, civilizations are stopping what they're doing, that whole organization to just communicate with me individually on the collective conscious level, independently or individually? Boom. That's exactly what's happening a lot of the time. And it's very hard to retain the memory of that when it happens or be aware that it happens due to the free energy and perception that we have just living on this planet. So in that way, you could be a charter, could be on that craft, and the way for them to easiest contact you is when you're in the dream state. And about every 7 years is when they seem to really show up. But now I think we're at a critical point of time here, and maybe it's not like that. They might come whenever now. I don't know. But for lifetime contactees around my age or older, it seems like every 7 years. I can believe the response I got on that when I put that out in 2014 when I came forward. I got more responses on charters than almost anything else. Anyway, Linda Herr in Oregon, thank you for coming. Oregon, what an interesting, beautiful place. Sasquatch ridden up there. Tennessee, Kentucky, getting chemtrails or blocking UVC. You know, Dr. Delbert Blair, who I greatly respected, he had done these chemical analysis of chemtrails. I'll tell you, I can't find that anywhere on the internet anymore. And he talked about the different type of monococcus that's in there, and also, oh gosh, man, there was all these different, not just manure, but these different. I've done a video on it. It's the chemtrails and angel hair, maybe, or chemtrails and Men in Black, but it's on there under technologies. But it's very interesting the stuff he was finding in there, the different type of uh, viruses that were in the chemtrails itself, along with Morgellons and things like that that's coming from those chemtrails. Um, gosh, sorry, I keep thinking of the name of the. Oh, sorry, I can't think of the name of the exact what they were. There are a bunch of them, along with the quantum dots. He was finding a lot of quantum dots in those chemtrails. Um, I think there was maybe some biosensors found in there too. You know, biosensors and the semiconductors they're putting in people. And I'm sure it's only gotten worse now as far as nano dust. The ball of light escapes to the right. Be wary of your left. It escapes to the left. It comes from good intent. It's a little. I don't know. What you're dealing with is the right and left sides of awareness, and the left side of awareness is where death, sleep, all the alternate states of consciousness and perception exist on the left side of awareness. On the right side of awareness, quote unquote, through the band of man, is where physical, all things are physical, and where we perceive this world to keep this world solid. So in that way, and it's even a little different than just left and right brain, I think, because it's dealing more with how we perceive as beings of perception and beings of consciousness. So, it's here or there. Always wear your shield on your left. You wear your shield, Tennessee Bigfoot, all over, man. Not just your left, all over. And that's imperative because I'm telling you right now, you get an earthbound spirit on you, they're not choosing to come from the left or left. They're jumping you, and these negatives are jumping you on your points of stress on your body where you hold trauma. And they lock to the points of places on your body where you have trauma, and then they start creating from there and manifesting from there. But that's where they actually join at. Both earthbound spirits do that, negative inorganic beings do that. They attach to places of trauma. And what sucks is a lot of us inherit trauma from past lives and generational trauma we don't even know that we got. So that makes it that much harder. So make sure you shield your entire biofield, like feet outside of yourself. It's really imperative to do that. Hello from Wales. What's up? Tartan Dog, thank you for being here. Okay, I've got to the end of it. Lorianne, you're the last one. I'm glowing. Oh, probably because I've had to put on some mosquito repellent. Those tiger mosquitoes are around. I got to put on something because those tiger mosquitoes with the white spots on them, they came over here on those tires that came from China a few years ago. The water inside of them, and those oh, they're horrible. They're so fast and they're so vicious. Oh, anyway, thank you all for coming. All right, I'm sorry this took a little longer than I thought. So much for my 1 hour deal, but I appreciate you all being here. Much respect to Dr. Eckert. I wish him blessed on his journey on the other side and through incarnations and everything. Thank everybody for being here. Anybody that wants to reach me, you can reach me at barrylittleton13@gmail.com. I'll be online all tonight trying to answer all emails that I haven't yet and all new ones that come in. So thank you very much. Oh, shadow work is on the left side. That's where your guides help transmute into perspective. Always get a bubble protection to have a shield. Yeah, I can't. I don't agree. Pretty cool, Tennessee. I don't especially agree with that, but to each their own with knowledge. You know what I mean? Just as a medium and things like that, it's just a little bit more than that left and right. But when dealing with something like the recapitulation, which is another way to actually not lose our soul life, our life memories during the death process. And during the recapitulation, what you're dealing is actually taking breathing with almost pranayama breaths from right to left. So you're actually taking things that have happened from the right and energy, all things that you've actually put energy into and left during your life from the right side back to the left side to gain more attention and dream awareness and things of that nature. It's different ways of viewing it. You know what I mean? So it's good either way though. But how do we remove trauma? Real quick, Carol, hit me an email. I deal with negative identities, and we can deal with that. We've got 4 components to ourselves, okay? We've got the mind, body, spirit, and the negative self. And so much of our free energy goes into the negative self. That's where a lot of our negative thoughts come in, self-confidence problem, self-efficacy problems, all these things come from the negative self. Self-doubt, a big one. And when you have these other negative entities, inorganic entities that start pouring, all they got to do is pour grease, the water on the grease fire, basically, and blow it up. We're already got the negative identity saying bad things to us. They just come in and put a little extra on it. Okay, then we get trauma. And what trauma does is it fragments the negative self into negative identities. And the subconscious comes up and grabs those and buries them. Okay, but they're in the background running like applications on this phone. Okay, they're said it's asleep. No, they're not. They're still running, draining power, all this other stuff. So there's a way to dissolve with the spirit the negative identities. The negative identities react in a way, the things that trigger them, that created them, they react in a way that's always negative to the self. The spirit, that part of us that's still with the creator, the higher self, all these different words, super conscious, you read the book, the thought adjuster, it's still with the creator, but it is positive. We're actually energy beings, but we're positive energy beings, truly. But the negative identities and negative self tries to stop that. So the positive spirit, the spirit responds in a way to situations that's beneficial to the self. So being energy beings, the positive self, energy part of us can dissolve the negative identities. There's techniques to do it. So hopefully that answers that. Shoot me an email. Concept, you're right, can be distractors. Right on, man. Like I said, each one their own, man. You know what I mean? Concept wise, it's cool. But I'm dealing with just what I've dealt with energetic wise. Daryl, thank you for coming. Thank you all for being here. Amy, thank you for being here. Thanks, Jessica, for manning the fences. I appreciate you all. Thank you for coming. I'll probably do another one of these. Please feel free to comment in the thing afterwards. I'll try to put Dr. Eckert's 1988 show, The Secret Identity of Jack the Ripper, in the chat, or not the chat, into the comments after this is over. I get it downloaded, and everybody check it out. It's been a long time ago, but it just kind of gives my friend some validation, I think. Like I said, somebody that really touched my life and changed my life, and I try to give props where it's due. I think it's important. So thank you all for being here. Peace.